On to item number 16. Clerk, please read.
Resolution number 39553, a resolution declaring surplus and approving the sale of approximately 35 miles of property, related railroad infrastructure, and personal property associated with the Western Junction facility owned by the Public Works Department, Tacoma Rail Mountain Division, located between Rainier and Chehalis, to WRL LLC for the amount of $2,801,000 and depositing said sum into the Tacoma Rail Mountain Division Fund.
I move to adopt resolution number 39553.
Second.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded. I'm going to call on Gloria Fletcher to explain why we're selling this property.
Good evening, Mayor Strickland and council members. I'm Gloria Fletcher with Public Works Real Property Services, here on behalf of Tacoma Rail Mountain Division. We are seeking your approval to proceed with the bid sale of railroad property located in Thurston and Lewis counties to WRL LLC, a short-line railroad operator, for $2,801,000. The city acquired this rail line, which originates in Tacoma, from the Weyerhaeuser Company in 1995. In 2013, City Council authorized a purchase option for the southernmost 20 miles, terminating just south of Chehalis, to two local governments, Chehalis and Lewis County. A feasibility study completed by these buyers showed that the properties were not feasible for their intended use and the option was not exercised. So since then, Tacoma Rail determined that the inclusion of an additional 15 miles of track and the facility located known as Western Junction near Tenino could accommodate a more sustainable railroad operation, and a request for bids was published in June 2016. The minimum bid was $2.5 million based on information obtained in that feasibility study, and WRL was the successful bidder and intends to operate this as a continued railroad. The proposed sale does align with the obligations provided for in the operating agreement between Public Works and Tacoma Rail, and both parties agree that it is in the best interest of the city, as it would remove the ongoing operating costs and the associated risks with maintaining this segment of rail. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and we also have Tacoma Rail Superintendent Dale King here for operational questions.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Any council questions or comments at this time? I'll start with Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Strickland. Just because we've had a couple of comments about this, and many of us have asked a lot of questions offline to make sure we're making the right decision, I just wanted to bring some of this to the public dialogue so the public knows the due diligence that I think we and our staff have done. Can you, my first question is, can you speak to your certainty that this is the best offer we're going to get, that there's no better purchaser of this property, and that you've exhausted the right kinds of purchasers?
Deputy Mayor Mello, yes, I'm confident that this is a good deal, that it is the best buyer we could get for this current condition of this property. This isn't a typical real estate transaction. It's more of a railroad sale. And given the historic use for the last 100 years as a railroad, the complications of selling railroad right-of-way of anything other than a railroad is just difficult to do. We did expose it quite a bit, over 2 years, to other railroad operators, and this one came forward, and yes.
And it's your understanding, I think, from my information gathering, that the intended use of the new purchaser is to keep it in an economic use, to keep hauling products of various kinds over time. That's your understanding of what the purchaser is going to do, correct?
Yes. And to use it as anything other than a railroad, you'd have to have it abandoned, which is a process. So this line connects to two other rail lines that go to other places, so it makes sense.
So that's my final question. You started to allude to a process if we were to abandon, and there was some suggestion that maybe we could turn it into a lovely, trail, bike, pedestrian trail, which is a great vision, but there's other lines that feed onto here, and it's my understanding that there's significant time and cost associated with doing that would fall to the city's general fund in order to incur those costs to abandon it. So it's the conclusion from you and others that that's not in the financial interest or the economic interest of the region to abandon the trail. Can you confirm that, or speak to what that means to go about abandoning it for some non-rail use?
Yes, that's my understanding as well, that the Surface Transportation Board in Washington, D.C. you'd have to file to abandon it. I believe it's an 18-month process. Other people can protest that, and so it goes, again, to the risk of the city keeping this this rail line open.
Great. So in closing, I'll be supporting this. I think on its face, it sounds simple that we could do something other than keeping it in its existing productive use. But I'm confident that after my due diligence, and I think my colleagues' due diligence, that we're doing the right thing in the interest of taxpayers here in Tacoma, getting this off of our books, but keeping it in some economic use and moving forward. So thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other council questions at this time for her?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Ibsen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's sort of the inverse to the Deputy Mayor's question. In terms of the budget, this isn't simply a sale that's going into the Mountain Rail Fund. This is also something that stems losses to the general fund. Is that correct?
Councilmember Ibsen, yes, that's my understanding.
Thank you for answering my question. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? Did you want to add something, Mr. King-Solver? I see you making your way to the front. Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. King, would you like to add anything? All right, thank you. Thank you very much for the thorough explanation, Ms. Fletcher. Okay, let's vote now. All those in favor of adopting resolution number 39553, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, resolution is adopted. So item number